Reclaimed is the podcast about the woman's journey of reclaiming her power through somatic work, breath work, plant medicine, and conversations. I am Kyla Gagnon, and this is Reclaimed. Hello, sweet friends. Welcome back to the conversation. Today I have Kristin Constable, who I get to say is actually a friend of mine. It's very, very fun when I get to have friends on the podcast. Kristin is a business coach and mentor for 6- and 7-figure soulful CEOs. Through soulful business strategy, embodiment, and CEO skills, Kristin supports her clients to live and lead like soulful CEOs so that they can really thrive throughout the journey of starting, operating, and scaling wildly abundant and aligned, businesses that are really vehicles to create a more beautiful world. How perfect is that? So please enjoy this conversation with the beautiful Kristin Constable. Hi, Kristin. How you doing, girl? I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Right off the hop, before we get into the juicy bits, we'll start with the age-old question of what are you currently reclaiming?
Being like, we're just going to start here. It's not the juicy stuff yet.
It's so juicy.
Big, meaty question. I love it. I love it. Gosh, that's kind of like a big one.
The big one.
It's a big one. And I'm going to answer it in a kind of in-depth way because I don't think it's something that I can answer in just like a word or something like that. So this year you can't really tell, and I don't, if anyone's listening, they can't listen, but I dyed my hair red this year. And it was redder before. I've kind of toned it down. The first red was like red. And it was part of a reclamation. And if I go like way back and kind of share some story around it, is a few years back, I was actually in an ayahuasca journey. And it was funny because I was in this journey and I had these visions of my family home growing up. And my family home on the outside is like a suburban home with like, the plastic paneling, and it was beige. And then I had a vision of my parents' old car, and it was this like old beige Volare. It was like back in the 80s. And then we had this beige couch, and I just like burst out laughing in the ceremony because it was just like boom, 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 like all this like metaphor for just like beigeness and just blending in and not standing out. And so that was like it was like a few years ago now, a while back. But this year really felt like the year to like reclaim the technicolor in my life, the brightness, the boldness. And so the hair symbolized that, but that's kind of currently my journey.
That is so fun. The beigeness.
Yeah.
Where else?
Those moments where you're just like, oh God.
You're like, oh, I see it all so clearly now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Other than your hair, then where else are you bringing back the technicolor of your life?
Yeah, it's in like the smaller moments. And I think we'll talk about this a little bit today in our conversation, but sometimes things can be like a huge 180 thing where you're just like, okay, I'm here and I'm going to go here. But what I'm really playing with is like in the like mundane moments, like how to bring really like magic to the mundane. So like bringing like the color back into the morning routine or the daily routine or the walks, and just taking like on my walks, not having like a podcast in all the time to, kind of like be distracted or like be power walking without actually looking around. Is like taking some slowness to add back in the color to what can sometimes turn into, for me anyways, just the routine felt like it was making everything a bit black or white. So that's like one thing in terms of habits. And then the other thing I would say it's around messaging and around things that I'm taking or I wouldn't even say taking a stand, but more so having like bolder opinions on. And, I've always kind of been someone who can see perspectives, I would say. So but I've used that to be kind of like, yeah, I can see that and I can see that, instead of saying, I can see that and I can see that. And right now, this is where I stand on that. So that's kind of I guess the behavior, how that's showing up.
Yeah. Cool. I love that. Thank you. Do you want to just real brief tell the people who don't already know you and follow you and love you a little bit about what you do and how you came to do that?
Yeah, for sure. So currently, I support women in building and scaling soul-aligned businesses. I work with service-based entrepreneurs who have big impact visions for the work that they do. So they want to have work that feels meaningful and purposeful, but they also want to create big income through their work, and they want to claim both and not have it be one or the other. So I work with those people to support them in getting the business systems, structures, offers, sales and marketing systems in place, owning their voice, their unique messaging, all of that stuff. But what comes along with that is a lot of the inner work, the identity work, the upgrading on mindset and who they see themselves as in order to create those types of businesses. So yeah, that's currently where I'm at. And I've been doing that I've been a certified coach since 2013. My journey started in the corporate world where I was doing leadership coaching and development. And then in 2016, I started my own business and had a leadership development consultancy first because it was closer to what I was doing then. And at the same time, I was working with small business owners that would come to me basically and say, I want some support in kind of doing what you're doing. And over the 4 years that I had that consultancy, I realized that my heart was really in the small business space and supporting individuals, not corporations. So in 2020, I transitioned out of the corporate space and fully into supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs.
Beautiful. I love this so much. And a soulful CEO. This is you. And I love that so much. Can you share a little bit about what that title means to you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So this is definitely not like the definition. It's how I think about it. And one of the things that I noticed when I first started working with small business owners and women specifically was that a lot of them saw themselves as, say, coaches or teachers or healers or facilitators or whatever the title was that they would give themselves. But CEO was something that they did not claim and did not see themselves as, actually. And I saw it as a huge opportunity because there's nothing wrong with this at all. Like, there are people who want simply a revenue stream through a business, and they want to treat it a bit more like a hobby. And you can have a pretty successful business like that, right? It's like you kind of let things flow to you. It's a little less structured. You don't have specific goals or intentions. And that's totally fine and it can work. But the work that I really like to do with people is have them see themselves as business owners and really take that role in their business as the CEO. And so for me, that the soulful CEO part of it is kind of like a new way of looking at what I think a lot of people reject around the idea of CEO is this very corporate, very masculine, very rigid, very traditional leader role. And I've asked people about this. They're like, I feel like it's got this power over kind of feeling to it. And the soulful part is really making that role yours. So when I talk about soulful CEO with people, I talk about what are the identity pieces that come along with that? What does a day in the life look like for you? What are the habits, the rhythms, the rituals to be able to claim this role of CEO in your business, but make it actually work for you? So you are using your business as a vehicle to do your work in the world that feels really good, versus being, this like leader of this entity that's like outside of you. So there's lots of different ways to talk about it, but that's kind of like why I put those two pieces together and talk about it in that way. And I resisted it for a while because I'm like, well, a lot of people don't see themselves as that. So is that actually like a good title to kind of like have this umbrella under? But I'm willing to have the conversation around it enough that I think it's a powerful reframe for a lot of people, including myself.
Yeah, it's like this very bold stance. It's bringing the technicolor back in. It's like this title isn't scary. This title isn't bad. This title isn't rigid. Yeah, there is resistance. I was going to speak to you, but you brought it up, so we can go into it maybe a little bit. The resistance that some of us have to that title. It's so interesting, and I was going to ask, and you also brought this up, so it's so perfect, that when a woman refers to herself as the CEO, I imagine, and you would know this more than I would, I imagine that there's a direct correlation to how she shows up in her business, in terms of like treating it like a business versus treating it like a hobby. And I say that, so I ran a personal training, I'm going to say business, because it was ultimately for 15 years, I was a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And I never thought of myself as a business owner or a CEO, but it was just me. I ran everything. And I look back now and see like, wow, that was a hobby. That was a hobby. And how much wasted time. And I can't waste time thinking of that. But do you notice a direct correlation in terms of the success of someone's business when they can claim that title of CEO versus not?
Yeah,
You do.
absolutely. And that's why I think it's so powerful because, identity is so powerful when we see ourselves in certain ways, when we say like, I am this. So it's like we can use other examples as like, like I'm good with money. I'm, what are some other ones that it might be is like, I'm successful. I'm worthy, like some of these more like not so labely things, but more ways that we identify. And when we identify in those ways, we make it true. We actually start acting in ways that reflect how we see ourselves. So if we claim this title of like CEO, I am the CEO of my business, we start to look for and act in ways that reflect that reality. And I actually just saw a post of yours, maybe it was your email that went out, around your Friday ritual, around your money. I think it's your money ritual. Yeah. And I love that because that's such a great example of a soulful CEO ritual. I don't know if you want to share it just so I don't botch it up, but what you do, and then I'll kind of like fill in the back pieces.
Yeah, this is new for me, and this is a new. Yeah, it's new for me. I'm like, how can I word that? So every Friday, I pull up my beautiful Excel spreadsheet that I paid someone to make because I don't understand Excel spreadsheets, and it's worth paying someone to do this for me. Honestly, I'm going to pause here for a second. I did this 3 years ago. I paid this woman to make me a spreadsheet so I could track my income and my expenses. Nothing fancy. That alone was so empowering because it was the first step that I took to understanding my money, to having a relationship with my money, with having a relationship to my business, as a business rather than this side thing. And it was the best thing I had done for myself in a really long time. So every Friday I pull up my spreadsheet, I pull up my Stripe. Stripe is how I get paid. I pull up my Stripe account, I pull up my bank, I pull up my credit card statement. I have it all on different screens on my computer, and I'm still a pen to paper. So yes, I have my spreadsheet that I input, but I don't input like that's really just business. So I don't input, my nail appointment and my hair and my skincare. Like I don't put that in. I put that on a separate thing. So I pen and paper it. I write down everything, which I actually think is more powerful to actually pen and paper write. This money went out. This money went out. This money went out. This money came in. And then I input it all into my spreadsheet. And then I look and I'm like, okay, did all of that need to go out? Did all of that feel really good going out? Maybe I don't want to spend $600 on the dogs next month. Maybe I don't. I did. I spent $597 on the dogs last month. I don't even know on what. Anyways, that's another conversation. I can look at it and really decide where I want to choose to put my money and where I could maybe do something different with that money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a powerful practice. And you made it into this like weekly rhythm, which then becomes a habit. And now it's a way of being. And now you see yourself likely as someone who has a good relationship with money, or at least a healthy relationship with your money.
Yeah. Exactly.
And the back, a little couple details that you left out that I think is the like soulful part of all of that is when you shared in your newsletter, wherever you shared it, you're like, I do it on my sun-drenched patio in my bathing suit with my watermelon and my like variety of drinks. And I'm like a multi-drink girl too. So like, I appreciate that.
I've got two right now. And my smoothie is half empty over there.
Totally. And so those are the pieces that instead of being like, oh, I've got to sit with my spreadsheet and I've got to work on my money and it's got to feel really hard, it's like, how do you get to own those aspects in your life and business in a way that feels really good for you? And to me, that's what being a soulful CEO is all about. It's not avoiding those things, but finding ways to make them work for you.
Yeah. You said something a little bit ago about, the language we speak. And I just want to bring that up because that is so important. It's like, if someone is constantly saying, I don't have enough money, or, ugh, my rent is so expensive, or gas is so expensive, or can you believe the cost of living these days? Which, it's going up. And there's a conversation, yes, for sure. And if that's constantly our language, that's going to constantly be our truth and our reality versus I was listening to a podcast this morning and it was what rich people do and what poor people do, how rich people speak and how poor people speak, and I don't know if I love that language of rich and poor, but it makes the point. How they spend their money, where they eat, what they do. And someone who has a really beautiful, healthy, thriving relationship with money and is in a state of overflow isn't complaining about the cost of gas and isn't saying, oh, there's just not enough. And so when it comes to our business and how we maybe show up and own and honor and anchor into our business, I imagine too, and maybe there's something there for you to share, but on the language that we speak about ourselves and our business.
Yeah, for sure. And I think part of what you're sharing, like, so there's the language and being really conscious of how we're talking about things. And one of the things that I work on a lot with my clients is things like, I'm not good at this, or I don't like this. And I think that that's, again, when we can anchor into this identity piece around identity is an evolution. We often think about it as fixed, but it's actually something that we can evolve. And our every next level, whether it be in relationship, whether it be in business, is going to require a next level identity for that. And so if we have this like idea that I'm just a coach, I'm not a good business person, or I'm not good at sales is often one that comes up for a lot of my clients. I'm not good at sales. That's going to be the reality that is perpetuated. That's going to be the reality that you see. You're going to look for evidence that that's true. And it keeps you in a very limited position of not being able to evolve your identity and your skill set around that. Because there's the like identity piece and the mindset piece, but there's also the skill set piece that comes along with running a successful business. And the truth is most of us actually don't get into service-based, impact-driven businesses because we're good business people. We're not like the typical entrepreneur who sees like a gap in the market and is like, I'm going to take advantage of that gap and close that gap. That's like a different kind of person. But I imagine most of the people who listen to your podcast who are like business owners, and definitely most of my clients, are people who get into business almost by accident because they just want to do the thing that they really love doing. And so then we kind of have to backfill the skill set around that. And it's all learnable. Like it's nothing of like in running a business is rocket science. It's all learnable skills. So when we can use language to be the like fire starter of almost like, okay, I'm going to start saying, rather than I'm not good at sales, is I'm learning to get great at sales, or, I am on my way to being great at sales. It can really shift things and allows for so much expansion.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, because, a lot of, when you look at, use mantras and affirmations, and I love mantras and affirmations, but often if someone truly feels like I'm bad at sales, I don't know what I'm doing, to have this affirmation of I'm a rock star
Yeah.
salesperson, there's going to be, your body's not going to jump on board with that. There's
Yeah.
going to be a hard no internally. So I love that
Yeah.
you bridge it with that. I am on my way to, I'm learning too. I
Mhm.
think that's really beautiful. So this probably ties into that, but what is it that women really need to do to own the title, to really own the identity of the soulful CEO?
Yeah. Well, I think that that's one of the things, like when you ask me, how do I define Soulful CEO? I want to share it, but I also want to always be really clear that there isn't like a definition for it, because I think it starts with defining what that means for you. And so for some people, it's going to be connected to an income number. For some people, it might be connected to what the business looks like. For some people, it'll be connected to the lifestyle that it allows for. So the first place is to get really clear on, like, what does being a soulful CEO mean for you in the bigger context of your life? And how does that work with your life? So doing some work around that, around, like, I love getting people to just do some visioning work. Some, like, this is where, like, actually, I usually don't love doing like super far out visioning work with people, like kind of keep it smaller. But this is the one place where it's like, what does life look like in 10 years? And it can be really powerful to kind of like create that. And if 10 years feels too far for you, 5 years, fine. But then from there, you can backfill it with, okay, so if I want my life, if I want to have a multi 6-figure business, I want to work like, 20 to 30 hours a week. I want to be working with people I love, doing this kind of work. Who do you need to be in terms of like your values, your habits, how you show up, who you surround yourself by, and what do you need to do? So those are kind of like the two pieces. Is once you're clear on the vision, then it's like, who do you need to be and what do you need to do? And that's where the identity piece can start to take form of, okay, now that I know those things, like if I were to create my, getting really granular, is like create a day around that. What does like the perfect day look like? What does the perfect week look like? What do my annual rhythms, rituals, and habits look like? Because truly it's like our world manifests from the small choices we make moment to moment. So we can have this like vision board with like, all the fancy things on it. But if we're not taking the like in the moment action to, I don't know, like drink the water instead of the like pop or whatever, right? That's like, those are the things that actually create the direction. So that would be kind of like, I know it's kind of like goal setting 101, but it is the path, and it's not, and that's the thing, there's nothing fancy to it. It's really just doing what we probably know we need to do but might just not be doing yet, because behavior change is challenging. So it's like, just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. But that's kind of like, that's the path.
Yeah, that is the path. Everyone's wanting
Mm-hmm.
that. Like, is sure there's not another one? There's not like a short path or like a
I know.
quick, is it a pill? Is there like a button I can press?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and there's so
But
much.
that being said, I will say, just because I'm here talking to you, is that there are things that can make it easier. And so, truthfully, breath work to me is one of those things that can make that easier, because we can sit in the like over analyzing, overthinking, being stuck in our emotions, like all of those pieces. But, personally for me, and I've tried a lot of different things, mindset work, working with coaches, like plant medicine, all the things. And for me, breath work is the most accessible and helpful tool day to day. because you can do like big journeys with it to like really move stuff. But you can also do a 5, and that's what I love about your membership, is that you have these like 5 to 10 minute practices in there that for every kind of different thing. Like I need more energy, I need to calm down, I need to feel more gratitude. So there are like hacks, so to speak. And for me, that's one that really works. So you can find tools to support with that. It doesn't just have to be like pure willpower. There are things that help. And I would say breathwork is one of them.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I have to agree, of course. You know, we get so well, and we get stuck in our head, you know, and when we're running a business, we have to be in our head a lot of the time. There's a lot of logistics that have to get done. There's planning involved, there's structure involved, there's strategy involved. And so we do really, like, thank God for this brilliant mind of ours. We have to be there. And if we stay there too long, we disconnect from the original space of this business that we're in. I trust most of us, I know probably all of your clients, and I think everyone in my space, it's all heart centered. It comes from your truest, like, most authentic self, is the business that we've created. Like you even said earlier, you know, we found this almost accidentally because we were just following what we love to do. And so if we find ourselves as women, particularly in a place in life or in business where it feels really resistant or sticky, or things aren't moving so well, it would be curious to check, like, when was the last time I dropped into my body? When was the last time I came home to myself? So whether that's dance or breath work or I don't know, just playing, like I can go like run through a sprinkler and like roll down a hill and play. I imagine things would feel a lot different after that.
Yeah. So funny you say that. I just bought a splash pad for my dog, but I like can't wait to use it myself. So it's coming today from Amazon. I'm going to post it. But just that idea of like just having more fun, I think is like so important. And that's the, like, coming back to like reclaiming and redefining what that soulful CEO means to you. I think it can feel not fun. And so, like, how does it feel fun? Whether that means like working in your bathing suit in the back, or, you know, taking these like play breaks. I had an old coach. She had a trampoline in her backyard, and she would just always like take an afternoon, like in the afternoon, go jump on the tramp for a bit and like be okay with like it looking different than you think it should look. And I think the more people that do that, it's like a new paradigm of business. We can really like create this new paradigm of business around what it looks like. And, you know, and each to their own, and people will define things differently, but like, I don't love the term like boss babe, because to me, I feel like it downplays like what we're actually doing. But I understand the like energetics behind it of like trying not to make it so serious.
Right.
And I think that like we can bring a little bit of that into like, how do you bring those energetics into however you define being the soulful CEO of your business?
Okay, kind of personal question about your personal practice, but how do you, as Kristin, maintain like that feminine side, your feminine embodiment, while also growing a strong, successful business? Which, you know, if we're going to say feminine, masculine, that is more masculine. How do you balance the two?
It's actually something I really need to work on, because I find that my tendency in my business is to go more masculine. So when things get tough, as they will go through seasons of like, so maybe something's not working, maybe like my programs aren't selling, maybe whatever, my default is to go to working harder. So my default is to, well, I just have to like work harder. I need to figure this out. I need to get more serious. And so it's actually a ongoing practice for me to balance that, especially when it's easier when things are like flowy and good and all of that, but when they're not. And so for me, it's actually the habits and the rhythms and the rituals that bring me back. So I've got like my non-negotiable morning ritual that is about just spaciousness. And I love to go up on my, especially in the summer, I've got like a rooftop deck. So I take my coffee up there and do a little bit of breath, and then I'll read if I want. But that's actually something that I've like transitioned over the years, is like keeping that more spacious, so that it's not like I need to do 20 minutes of breath, yoga, read 10 pages. Like, that felt very masculine. So it's more about like in the morning, it's spacious. And then I go for my workout, and then I don't take calls until 10 o'clock usually. So there's just like this time in the morning for me to listen to what my body needs and then respond to that. The other thing is nature. It's like nature just brings me back to Mother Earth and to just that feminine energy. So spending time in nature by myself, it's different when I'm with other people. It like needs to be by myself, so have some like solo time in nature. And then community and connection would be the other one, is like really being in circles of and spaces with other women that can remind me of that what is beautiful about the feminine energy, which is the collaboration, the wisdom sharing, the acceptance of like the chaos in some ways. So yeah, those would be like the three main things I would say.
Beautiful. And I was going to go into this, so it's kind of a perfect little segue, but in terms of, women claiming that identity of the CEO of Soulful CV. So, blah, blah, blah. That's a mouthful. Soulful
It is.
CEO.
You say it a few times.
Say
Yeah.
it 10 times fast. And so really coming into that embodiment of it, we speak about the rituals and the habits. So those are your rituals and habits. How do you, and I'm sure it's just different with everyone, but how do you, or what do you suggest women do to even start bringing in those rituals and habits of what I assume is like their envisioned, right? That next level them. Someone who maybe doesn't have a ritual, or someone who maybe is, what if someone's like really, and maybe you've experienced this with a client where their rituals and habits are pulling them further away from their vision of their soulful CEO. So what are some, I don't know, tips, tricks? What do you say to a woman who's heading that way?
Yeah, it's a great conversation, because whether it be, and it's any kind of like habits or behavior change, sometimes we try to go from like 0 to 100 to the 180-degree shift. So if we just bring it back to like, say someone wants to get into yoga, they're like, I'm going to go to a hot yoga class 3 times a week, and I'm going to get into yoga, and that's like that's the new habit, but they haven't been doing it at all, right? And so that's a huge shift to make, versus I'm going to pull out my mat every morning with no expectation, no like thing that I have to do. I'm just going to put my mat out. And if I just want to lay in child's pose for 10 minutes and then get up and go, that's totally good. So I think that relates to this as well, is how do you just start creating the spaces for new behaviors to take hold, versus having this expectation of what it needs to look like. So the thing that I share, I think, and is usually something that I work with every single person on, and they don't want to do it because it seems too simple. And also it's like everyone wants the little hack, but it's the time blocking. It's time blocking to actually create the space for the things. So even if it's like, I work with a lot of moms and they're like, well, I don't have time to do like a 3-hour morning routine, like must be nice. I'm like, I know it's nice. And I understand my privilege around that. And I bet you could find 15 minutes. And so you don't, so it's like creating those time blocks and communicating those time blocks to others. Because when you brought up around people might having habits that actually pull them further away from their soulful CEO identity, one that comes up a lot is the pattern, I should call it more than a habit, but pattern of like people pleasing, or putting other people's needs ahead of their own business. So how that looks in business a lot is people will like overextend their boundaries with clients. So they'll be available any day of the week, anytime, like constant 24/7 access. And then they feel drained and don't have any time for the actual working on the business. So the first place to look around that is like, okay, how do we tighten up the boundaries around where you're giving and what time is yours? So maybe it's, you carve out 4 hours every week for like deep work. And that time is like absolutely yours, but that requires you to have some like conversations and put some boundaries in place for other people, for your clients, or if we're talking morning routine, it might be with your family to be like, until 7:30 in the morning, I'm not available. And being able to create those and just start small, start with something like one thing, get it implemented, and then layer on versus trying to do all the things.
Yeah, such a good idea. Great idea. And with that too, it must be nice to have 3 hours. 15 minutes is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought that up. Just any time that we can actually dedicate to ourselves that we haven't before is such a beautiful act of self-love, self-respect, self-honoring, boundaries. Like, it's a great place to practice, and that's okay if that's all that there is too, and just stay really dedicated to that. I don't know if someone originally said this, obviously, but I'm not sure if it's quoted by anyone. But that whole, continuing to do what we've done to get us to this point, right? If we keep doing the same thing, well, we'll just stay. And of course, what we've been doing is probably quite comfortable and familiar, and so we want to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we all, whether it's business or not business, maybe it's just your personal life or your household life, we all have visions. There is a next place we all want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And to really acknowledge, and this is the part where, I like to be as gentle as I can with my people. I like to be really loving and maternal, but there's also a part, and not that this isn't loving and maternal, where it's like we need to also hold ourselves accountable and show up. And that means doing things different. And so if what we've done to get ourselves here is what we keep doing, well, we will just stay here. Like that just is math. Oh, I did XYZ. It got me here. So if I keep doing XYZ, it'll keep getting me back here. And and I have this. I have this in me, and I have seen myself in this before, where I'm like, why aren't things evolving? Why isn't it just happening for me? Like, why is it not just landing in my lap? And it's like, I'm not doing shit about it. Like, I'm still in past versions. So that radical self-love is like, I want this. And so I am going to do the things, even if it's uncomfortable. And so, yes, starting with just that one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's such a great conversation because I think I love that you're bringing in this idea of being gentle with ourselves at the same time of like doing things that are uncomfortable. And we can hold both at the same time. Because if we try to like force it and like just like willpower through it, like and be really just like tough with it, it's like I'm gonna do this. It's not gonna be sustainable. So doing it from that place of like really reframing all of these pieces is like radical self-love. It's like this radical self-love to give yourself, the 15 minutes in the morning, or to give your business a chance to really become what you want it to be, and do the work to like level up in terms of maybe skill set or mindset or whatever that means, to give yourself like to see yourself as truly worthy of what you want. And so we're human, we're not going to be perfect. So, like whether it be posting consistently on social media or something like that, let's just say, that can come from a place of like, I really want this. I really want people to share my voice. I really want people to see what I have to offer. And there might be times where you fall off the wagon. And instead of beating yourself up about that, is like, how can you see yourself as like perfectly human and gonna make mistakes. And a good friend of mine, she always talks about falling off the wagon in her coaching. And she's like, we often think that the wagon keeps going and we're like done. It's like over, but the wagon's like waiting for us just to get back on. It's been waiting there the entire time.
Right.
So all we've got to do is choose, right? Choose, oh shit, I fell off. Sorry, I don't know if you can censor that part
all
out.
you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
I fell off and I just get to choose to get back on. And that's the journey of growth, right? We think about little kids who are learning how to walk. It's the same thing. They get up, they fall, they like cry, they dust themselves off, they get up again.
Yeah. The wagon has auto brakes.
Yeah, totally.
I'll wait for you forever.
I'll wait for you. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. Is there anything we haven't spoken about that's like right on your heart or like top of mind, or you've been having these conversations with clients a lot and it feels important? Anything you want to share?
I mean, I kind of touched on it a little bit, but the one thing that's been coming up a lot in conversations is this. I think it goes along with like claiming the Soulful CEO identity, but like really claiming your inherent worth to like want what you want. And so that's where like that income and impact thing comes in for me, is that it drives me crazy a little bit. And it's something that I totally get and have so much compassion for. But when people hold themselves back from saying, like, if it's true, if it's not just this external thing that you're saying because you see other people doing it, but if it's true for you to be like, I want to create like 50K months because I know the impact that that's going to have on my life, my family's life, the impact I can have in my communities, and to like as women really claim that and own that, because I see so often that it's like, well, yeah, maybe if I could make like 20K, that'd be good. And it's like this kind of like apologetic energy around like really claiming what you want when maybe it's income, maybe it's the number of people you're serving, maybe it's like hosting retreats internationally, like whatever it is for you, but really claiming that piece. And I think that goes really well with your podcast, I guess, like theme around like reclamation, but like, yeah, like reclaiming your inherent worth for what you want and not being apologetic about it.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And that for everything, like what you want in your personal life, what you want in the bedroom, what you want in your wardrobe, what you want in a friend, what you want in your family, what you want in your business, what you want in your bank account. And in terms of, and it's funny, it's not funny actually, but women have such a hard time talking about money and sex and what we want in both of those. And so we're often also very, I say we as in, women as a whole, will put ourselves after everyone else. And so if that's your habit, someone listening, if you're used to maybe putting other people ahead of you, then just consider how those other people will benefit from you having more money. Let's just consider how their lives will benefit, the local businesses that you can support, the charities that you can support, the experiences you can offer your family or your friends, the freedom that you will have personally, which will alleviate your stress, some of it, of course, there'll always be stress, which will allow you to be more you, to give them more of you. Like, it's just this massive ripple when money is in the hands of really good people, heart-centered people, soulful people. Really great things happen. Really great things happen.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And it's one of the big mission pieces for me behind my business, is I totally believe when soul-led women and their businesses are thriving, the world will be a more beautiful place. And so, as you said, if you need to anchor into something outside of you, whether it be your local community, your family, your friends, or just the bigger community or collective, it's powerful. It's super powerful.
Kristin, let us know what you've got going on, how people can hire you and give you their money and celebrate that exchange and up level and expand. What have you got going on?
Yeah. So currently, the container that I have open and am working with people inside of is called the Soulful CEO Club. And it's kind of this hybrid style community, where it's community, mentorship, coaching, resources, training. I wanted to create a space that was kind of a choose your own adventure space, a lot more feminine than some of the other programs I've done in the past that were very like linear, like you have to go through this curriculum and you have to get here, and more have it just be a space where women who are up to similar things, wanting to create income and impact in their lives and their worlds, can come together and get what they need when they need it. So that's currently the space that I am working with people in, and I'll share with you the link that people can check it out. And there's different tiers that you can join in, but yeah, that's what I got going on.
Beautiful. That will be in the show notes, and share with us your podcast title as well.
Yeah, so the podcast, it just started in May, so it's just a few months into being into existence, but it's so fun. I love having conversations like these, and we have very similar conversations on the podcast, which is called the Soulful CEO Path. And so we've got episodes right now that come out every couple of weeks, and I'm looking for great guests. So if anyone wants to be a guest on the show, feel free to reach out. I'd love to chat with you.
Beautiful. Put all of that below, all of that in the notes. Yeah. Any final bits of wisdom? Any final bits of love, tips, tricks?
I don't know. I think we covered a lot of ground here. So yeah, I think I'm complete. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yay. Well, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me and with the balls.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
All right, beauties. Thank you so much for hanging with us. I hope you really enjoyed that conversation. If you haven't already, please leave a rating or review. It really, really helps me out, helps the podcast reach more amazing humans. And if you haven't yet subscribed, that's going to be the quickest, best way for you to make sure that you don't miss an episode. We are in August, and as I'm recording this, it's raining, which is actually a great thing. There's been fires, but looking out my window, it does not look like August, but here we are. And that means I have dropped the toolkit built for a queen. And this is such a fun little project I put together when I closed the doors to the essentials. And the toolkit built for a queen essentially is this on-demand virtual resource created specifically for women who are seeking to navigate life's challenges with grace, strength, and self-awareness. This toolkit is designed to empower you with the skills to let go of trapped emotion and fully embody your radiant queen-like self. And I like to say it'll keep you on your throne. These tools are perfect. So inside you're going to see, of course, breathwork techniques, somatic practices, mindset and emotional growth tools, embodiment journeys, and of course, access to me when you need me. All right. I love you to bits, and I will see you next time. All of the links that you are potentially curious about are in the show notes.